The arrival. The Galactic University of Sciences hung suspended in the inky void of space, a gleaming beacon of knowledge that drew the brightest minds from across the cosmos. Its crystalline spires and swirling energy fields housed countless laboratories, lecture halls, and research centers dedicated to unlocking the universe's deepest secrets. For millennia, it had been the undisputed pinnacle of higher education, accepting only the most gifted students from the thousands of advanced civilizations that made up the Galactic Confederation, which made the approaching human shuttle all the more peculiar. Professor Selnak peered out of his office window, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession as he tracked the small craft's trajectory. The wrinkled folds of skin around his mouth tightened in what passed for a frown among his species. "Preposterous," he muttered, turning to face the holographic projection of Dean Zilix that hovered above his desk. "I assure you, Professor, this is no mistake." The Dean's melodious voice chimed, her bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with each syllable. "The human applicant met all our criteria. In fact, she exceeded them in several areas." Zelnak's exoskeleton creaked as he settled into his chair. "But they're barely a century into their space age. How could one of them possibly qualify for our astrophysics program?" "That," Dean Zilix replied, a hint of amusement in her tone, "is precisely what makes her admission so intriguing. I expect you to treat her like any other student, Selnak. We are scientists, after all. Let's approach this with open minds." The projection winked out, leaving Selnak alone with his thoughts and the steadily approaching shuttle. He sighed, a wheezing sound that echoed through his office. "Open minds indeed," he grumbled, reaching for his data pad to review the human's application one last time. Meanwhile, aboard the shuttle, Zara Chen clutched her seat's armrests, her knuckles white with tension. The Earth grew smaller behind her, a blue marble shrinking into the vastness of space. Ahead, the university loomed larger with each passing moment, its alien architecture unlike anything she'd ever seen. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, trying to slow her racing heart. "You earned your place here. You belong." But even as she repeated the mantra, doubt gnawed at her. She was the first human ever admitted to the Galactic University of Sciences, a fact that filled her with both pride and terror. What if it had all been a mistake? What if she wasn't ready? What if? Her spiraling thoughts were interrupted by a gentle chime. The shuttle's eye spoke, its voice calm and reassuring. "Prepare for docking, Miss Chen. We will be arriving at the Galactic University of Sciences in approximately 5 minutes." Zara took a deep breath, smoothing out the wrinkles in her newly issued uniform. The fabric felt strange against her skin, designed for a body plan far different from her own. It was just one of countless reminders that she was about to step into a world where she was the alien. As the shuttle maneuvered into the docking bay, Zara caught her first glimpse of her future classmates. Creatures of all shapes and sizes moved about the arrival area, some floating, others crawling, a few even phasing in and out of visibility. The diversity was dizzying, and for a moment, Zara felt a wave of homesickness wash over her. The shuttle doors hissed open, and a gust of alien air rushed in. It smelled faintly of ozone and something unidentifiable, but not unpleasant. Zara stood on shaky legs, grabbing her bag and taking her first tentative steps onto the university grounds. A hush fell over the crowd as she emerged. Hundreds of eyes, sensory organs, and other perceptual apparatuses turned to focus on her. Zara felt her face flush under the scrutiny, but she forced herself to stand tall and walk forward. "Welcome, Zara Chen of Earth," a melodious voice rang out. Dean Zilix glided towards her, bioluminescent tendrils swaying gently. "We are honored to have you join us at the Galactic University of Sciences." Zara bowed slightly, remembering her cultural sensitivity training. "Thank you, Dean Zilix. I'm honored to be here." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Zara caught snippets of conversation in languages her universal translator struggled to keep up with. So fragile-looking. Primitive species. How did it qualify? Dean Zilix's tendrils flashed, silencing the whispers. Students, faculty, I present to you our newest astrophysics candidate. I trust you will all make her feel welcome and assist her in acclimating to our esteemed institution. As the crowd began to disperse, a tall insectoid being approached. Professor Zelmak looked down at Zora, his compound eyes glittering with barely concealed skepticism. "Miss Chen," he chittered, "I am Professor Zelmak, head of the astrophysics department. I must say, your application was most unusual." Zara squared her shoulders, meeting the alien professor's gaze. "I look forward to studying under you, Professor. I know I have a lot to prove, but I'm ready for the challenge." Zelmak's mandibles clicked. "Indeed you do, young human. Indeed you do. Your first lecture begins in one standard rotation. I suggest you use that time to familiarize yourself with our facilities. You'll find them quite different from your Earth universities." As Zelmak strode away, Zora couldn't shake the feeling that she had just been issued a challenge. She tightened her grip on her bag, determination settling in her chest. She hadn't come all this way to fail now. A gentle tendril touched her shoulder, and she turned to see Dean Zilix smiling at her, or at least Zora thought it was a smile. "Don't mind Professor Zelmak," the dean said softly. "He's brilliant, but set in his ways. Give him time." Zara nodded, grateful for the reassurance. "Thank you, Dean. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Zilix replied. "Now let me show you to your quarters. I think you'll find them interesting." As they walked through the twisting corridors of the university, Zora's mind raced with questions and possibilities. She had dreamed of this moment for years, ever since first contact had opened up the galaxy to humanity. Now she was here, surrounded by technology and beings beyond her wildest imagination. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. And it was just the beginning. Zara's quarters, as it turned out, were a marvel of adaptive architecture. The room seemed to shift and change as she explored it, adjusting to her human needs in real time. A bed materialized, conforming to her body's specifications. The atmospheric controls fine-tuned themselves to Earth-like conditions. "This will be your home for the duration of your studies," Dean Zilix explained. "The room is equipped with a neural interface that will allow you to make further adjustments as needed. Simply think of what you require, and the room will do its best to accommodate." Zara ran her hand along a wall, marveling as it rippled under her touch. "This is incredible," she breathed. "Thank you." The dean's tendrils pulsed warmly. "Rest now, Zara Chen of Earth. Tomorrow, your real journey begins." As the door closed behind Dean Zilix, Zara sank onto her newly formed bed. The events of the day washed over her, the tearful goodbyes on Earth, the awe-inspiring journey through space, and now this, her first night as a student at the most prestigious university in the galaxy. She pulled out a small holoprojector from her bag, activating it to display a picture of her family. Their smiling faces beamed up at her, a slice of home in this alien world. "I made it, Mom, Dad," she whispered. "I'm really here." As the artificial night cycle began, dimming the lights in her room, Zura lay back on her bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new wonders, and undoubtedly new obstacles. But as she drifted off to sleep, one thought echoed in her mind. She was ready to show the galaxy what humanity could do. Cultural clashes and curiosities. The first rays of artificial sunlight filtered through Zora's quarters, gently rousing her from sleep. For a moment, disorientation gripped her as she took in the alien surroundings. Then reality crashed back. She was light years from Earth, about to begin her first day at the Galactic University of Sciences. Zara's stomach churned with a mixture of excitement and anxiety as she prepared for the day ahead. The neural interface in her room helpfully suggested appropriate attire, materializing a sleek uniform that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly iridescence. As she donned it, Zara couldn't help but feel like an imposter, a human girl playing dress-up in a cosmic masquerade. The corridors bustled with activity as Zora made her way to her first lecture. Students of all shapes and sizes hurried past, some flying, others slithering, a few even teleporting in short bursts. Zara felt painfully conspicuous, her bipedal gait marking her as unmistakably different. She arrived at the lecture hall early, choosing a seat near the back. As other students filed in, she noticed their curious glances and whispered conversations. Her universal translator picked up fragments. Human. Primitive. How will it keep up? Fascinating specimen. Zara gritted her teeth, reminding herself that she had earned her place here. She was more than just a fascinating specimen. She was a student, same as any of them. Professor Selmak entered the hall, his exoskeleton gleaming under the holographic lights. "Welcome, aspiring astrophysicists," he began, his mandibles clicking rhythmically. "Today we delve into the intricacies of quantum singularities and their effects on space-time curvature." As the lecture progressed, Zara found herself struggling to keep up. The concepts were far beyond anything she had encountered on Earth, and the teaching methods were equally alien. Three-dimensional equations floated in the air, morphing and splitting as Selnak manipulated them with mere thoughts. Zara's hand shot up, her face flushed with frustration. "Excuse me, Professor," she called out, her voice sounding small in the vast hall. "Could you please explain that last derivation again? I'm not familiar with the underlying principles." A hush fell over the room. Zelnak's compound eyes fixed on Zara, and she could have sworn she saw a flicker of satisfaction in their depths. "Ah, Miss Chen," he chittered, "perhaps this level of theoretical physics is a bit advanced for your species. Shall I recommend some remedial materials?" Heat rose in Zara's cheeks, but she refused to back down. "With all due respect, Professor, I don't need remedial materials. I need a clear explanation. On Earth, we believe that if a student doesn't understand, it's often because the teacher hasn't found the right way to explain it yet." A collective gasp rippled through the alien students. Challenging a professor so directly was unheard of in their cultures. Selnak's mandibles twitched, and for a moment, Zara feared she had overstepped. But then, something unexpected happened. Zelnak's exoskeleton shifted, taking on a slightly different hue. "An interesting perspective, Miss Chen," he said, his tone unreadable. "Very well. Let us approach this from a different angle." To Zara's surprise, Selnak began breaking down the concept using simpler terms and more visual aids. As he did so, she noticed other students leaning forward, their attention rapt. It seemed she wasn't the only one benefiting from this new approach. By the end of the lecture, Zara felt a small spark of triumph. She had understood the material, and more importantly, she had stood her ground. As the students filed out, a willowy being with crystalline skin approached her. "That was impressive," the alien said, its voice like chiming bells. "I'm Zix. I've never seen anyone challenge Professor Zelnak like that before." Zara smiled, relief washing over her at this friendly overture. "Thanks. I'm Zara. I was worried I'd made a huge mistake." Zix's crystalline form shimmered with what Zara guessed was amusement. "Oh, you definitely caused a stir. But in a good way, I think. Many of us were struggling too. We just didn't dare say anything." As they walked together to the next class, Zara found herself bombarded with questions from Zix and other curious aliens who had overheard their conversation. Is it true humans only have 5 senses? How do you manage with just 2 arms? What's it like living on a planet with such heavy gravity? Zara did her best to answer, finding herself in the unexpected role of ambassador for her entire species. It was exhausting, but exhilarating too. For every question she answered, she had a dozen of her own about her new classmates' worlds and cultures. The day continued in a whirlwind of new experiences. In xenobiology, Zora's detailed knowledge of Earth's ecosystems proved unexpectedly useful, offering fresh perspectives on biodiversity that intrigued both her classmates and the professor. During a practical session in the quantum engineering lab, Zora's human dexterity and fine motor skills allowed her to manipulate delicate equipment in ways her alien classmates found difficult. What she lacked in innate understanding of advanced physics, she made up for with determination and a willingness to try unorthodox approaches. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. In advanced telepathic communication, Zara sat helplessly as her classmates engaged in silent, psychic exchanges. The professor, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering field, struggled to understand why Zara couldn't simply open her mind to receive the lesson. By the time evening fell, Zara was mentally and physically exhausted. She slumped into a chair in the university's vast dining hall, staring at the array of alien foods before her with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. "You look like you could use this," a gravelly voice said. A hulking reptilian alien placed a steaming cup in front of her. "It's called coffee. We imported it from Earth when we heard you were coming. Supposed to be good for human energy levels." Zara looked up, startled by this unexpected kindness. "Thank you," she said, gratefully taking a sip. The familiar taste of coffee, even if it wasn't quite right, was like a lifeline to home. The reptilian alien introduced himself as Krax, a third-year student in planetary terraforming. "We've all been new here," he rumbled. "It gets easier. Well, maybe not easier, but you get stronger." As they talked, other aliens drifted over, drawn by curiosity about the human and the strange earth beverage she was consuming. Soon, Zara found herself at the center of an impromptu cultural exchange, explaining everything from human sports to Earth's geopolitics. In return, she learned about bioluminescent art forms from gas giant cultures, the complex mating rituals of silicon-based life forms, and the challenges of maintaining a liquid methane diet in a primarily oxygen-rich environment. As the evening wore on, Zara felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee. Yes, she was different. Yes, she faced enormous challenges. But she was also forming connections, building bridges between her world and this vast, incredible universe of possibilities. Back in her quarters that night, Zara recorded a message to send home. "Mom, Dad," she began, her voice tired but filled with excitement, "you won't believe the day I've had." She recounted her experiences, the triumphs and the struggles, the moments of doubt and the unexpected victories. As she spoke, Zara realized something profound. She wasn't just here to learn about the universe. She was here to teach as well, to show the galaxy what humanity had to offer. "I miss you," she concluded, fighting back tears. "But I'm where I need to be. This is just the beginning." As she drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the gentle hum of alien technology, Zara's mind buzzed with new ideas and possibilities. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she was ready to face them. After all, she carried the hopes and dreams of humanity with her, a responsibility she was determined to honor. The Xenobiology Challenge. Weeks had passed since Zara's arrival at the Galactic University of Sciences, and the initial shock of being the only human in a sea of aliens had begun to fade. She had settled into a routine, found her favorite study spots in the library's zero-gravity section, and even started to enjoy the ever-changing menu in the dining hall. But today promised to be anything but routine. As Zara hurried down the iridescent corridors towards the Xenobiology lab, her mind raced with anticipation. Today marked the beginning of the department's most crucial project of the year, an endeavor that would push even the most brilliant alien minds to their limits. She entered the vast laboratory, a cathedral of science, filled with bubbling vats of exotic compounds, holographic displays of DNA structures from 1,000 worlds, and containment fields housing creatures that defied Earth's categories of plant and animal. Professor Zilvax, a being composed of swirling gases barely contained within a translucent exoskeleton, floated at the center of the room. Their voice, a melodious whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, cut through the excited chatter of the gathered students. "Attention, class," Zilvax began, tendrils of vapor forming intricate patterns as they spoke. "Today, we embark on our most ambitious project yet. The Galactic Council has tasked us with solving a crisis on the newly discovered planet Sci-Fi. A holographic image of a world appeared before them, a planet of swirling purple oceans and landmasses that seemed to shift and breathe. Xylos IV is home to a unique ecosystem, Zilvax continued. Its native life forms exist in a delicate symbiosis, but a recent astronomical event has disrupted this balance. Your challenge is to design an intervention that will stabilize the ecosystem without causing further harm. Excitement rippled through the room. This was no mere academic exercise. Their work could save an entire world. You will work in teams, Zilvax announced, and to encourage diverse perspectives, each team will be randomly assigned. Zara held her breath as the teams were announced. She ended up with Zixix, the crystalline being she had befriended on her first day, Krax, the hulking reptilian who had introduced her to alien coffee, and Nixra, a hive mind composed of millions of microscopic organisms that communicated through pheromones and color changes. As the teams dispersed to their workstations, Zara couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was her chance to prove herself, to show that humanity had something unique to offer to galactic science. The team dove into their work, analyzing the vast amounts of data on Xylos IV's ecosystem. Zixix's crystalline mind processed information at incredible speeds, while Krax's species' evolutionary history on a harsh world gave him unique insights into survival strategies. Nixra's collective consciousness approached problems from millions of angles simultaneously. And Zara? At first, she felt overwhelmed, struggling to keep up with her teammates' rapid-fire ideas and alien perspectives. But as the hours ticked by, she began to notice patterns that her alien friends were missing. Patterns that reminded her of Earth's own complex ecosystems. "Wait," she said, interrupting a heated debate between Krax and one of Nixra's subminds. "What if we're looking at this all wrong? On Earth, we have something called keystone species, organisms that have a disproportionate impact on their environment relative to their biomass." Her teammates fell silent, their attention focused on her. "Look at this," Zora said, manipulating the holographic display. "This small organism here, it seems insignificant, but its life cycle is intimately connected to nearly every other species on Xylos IV. What if we focus our intervention on stabilizing its population?" Zixix's crystalline form shimmered with excitement. Brilliant. A targeted approach could have cascading positive effects throughout the ecosystem. The team worked tirelessly, refining Zora's insight into a comprehensive plan. They designed a carefully calibrated pheromone that would subtly alter the breeding cycles of the keystone species, bringing it back into balance with the rest of Xylos IV's life forms. As the deadline approached, teams began presenting their solutions. Zara watched nervously as group after group proposed massive geoengineering projects or the introduction of new species to rebalance the ecosystem. Finally, it was their turn. Zara stepped forward, her heart pounding. She began to explain their solution, her voice gaining confidence as she delved into the intricacies of their plan. The room fell silent as she finished. Even Professor Zilvax's gaseous form seemed to still. "Miss Chen," Zilvax said after a long moment, "your team's approach is unconventional, elegant in its simplicity, yet demonstrating a profound understanding of ecosystem dynamics. May I ask what inspired this solution?" Zara took a deep breath. "On Earth, we've learned, often the hard way, that the smallest changes can have the biggest impacts on an ecosystem. Our history is full of examples of well-intentioned interventions that caused unforeseen damage. This solution respects the complexity of Xylos IV's biosphere while providing the minimal nudge needed to restore balance." A murmur of appreciation rippled through the room. Zora saw nods of approval from her classmates, and even a few of the other professors who had come to observe the presentations looked impressed. "Well done," Zilvax said, their gaseous form swirling with what Zora had come to recognize as pleasure. "Your team's solution will be submitted to the Galactic Council for consideration. You've done the university proud." As the class dispersed, chattering excitedly about the project, Zara found herself surrounded by her teammates. Crax's scales had taken on a warm golden hue, a sign of pride in his species. Zix was literally glowing with excitement, and Nix-Ray had shifted through a kaleidoscope of colors before settling on a deep, satisfied blue. "We did it," Zara breathed, still hardly believing it. "No," Crax rumbled, placing a massive, clawed hand gently on her shoulder. "You did it, Zara. Your human perspective made all the difference." As they made their way to the dining hall to celebrate, Zara found herself bombarded with questions and congratulations from other students. Word of their innovative solution had spread quickly. But amidst the excitement, Zara noticed Professor Zelnak watching from a distance, his compound eyes unreadable. As their gazes met, the insectoid professor gave a slight nod, the barest acknowledgement. But from him, it felt like high praise. That evening, as Zara prepared her weekly message home, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. "Mom, Dad," she began, unable to keep the excitement from her voice, "remember how I always used to say I wanted to save the world? Well, today I might have helped save an entire planet." As she recounted the day's events, Zara realized how far she had come. She was no longer just the strange human curiosity. She had proven that humanity's unique perspective had value on a galactic scale. But even as she basked in the glow of success, a part of her wondered what challenges tomorrow would bring. The universe, she was learning, was full of surprises, and she was ready to face them all. Little did Zara know that her team's solution to the Tylos IV crisis would soon catch the attention of some very influential beings in the Galactic Confederation. Her human ingenuity, combined with the diversity of her team, had created something truly revolutionary. And in the vast, complex political landscape of galactic society, revolutionary ideas could be both powerful and dangerous. As Zara drifted off to sleep that night, dreams of alien worlds and new discoveries dancing in her head, forces were already in motion that would thrust her into the center of a controversy that could reshape the future of galactic science and humanity's place in it. The Xenobiology Challenge had been just the beginning. The true test of Zara's abilities and of humanity's potential was yet to come. Proving ground. The success of Zara's team in the Xenobiology Challenge had sent ripples through the Galactic University of Sciences. Whispers of their innovative solution had spread beyond the academic circles, catching the attention of the Galactic Confederation's Scientific Advisory Board. For Zara, however, life continued much as before, a whirlwind of classes, research, and the constant struggle to bridge the gap between human and alien perspectives. It was during a routine astrophysics lecture that everything changed. Professor Zelnak was in the middle of explaining the intricacies of neutron star formation when a shrill alarm cut through the air. The holographic displays flickered and died, plunging the lecture hall into darkness. "Remain calm," Zelnak's voice chittered through the gloom. "This is not a drill. All students, please follow emergency protocols and proceed to your designated safe zones." Panic rippled through the alien students. Some began to glow with bioluminescence, while others emitted pheromones of distress. Zara felt her heart racing, but years of Earth-based emergency drills kicked in. She stood up, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Everyone, stay together. Let's move in an orderly fashion. Those who can see in the dark, please help guide the others." To her surprise, the aliens responded to her authoritative tone. As they made their way out of the lecture hall, Zara found herself naturally taking charge, organizing the evacuation with a calm efficiency that belied her inner turmoil. In the corridors, they met other groups of panicked students and faculty. The emergency lighting cast an eerie glow, distorting familiar shapes into alien shadows. Zara spotted Zix and Crax in the crowd and quickly made her way to them. "What's happening?" she asked, having to shout over the continuing alarm. Crax's scales had taken on a dull, worried hue. "It's the containment fields," he rumbled. "Something's causing them to fail across the entire university." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. The containment fields held everything from dangerous experimental materials to artificial micro-universes. If they all failed at once, her thoughts were interrupted by a deafening roar. The floor beneath them shuddered, and a wave of hot, acrid air washed over them. In the distance, Zora could see flashes of unnatural light and hear the sounds of destruction. "The Chaos Lab," 66 whispered, their crystalline form vibrating with fear. "If its containment has failed." Zara knew about the Chaos Lab. It was where the university's most dangerous and unpredictable experiments were conducted. The thought of whatever was in there being loose in the university was terrifying. As they hurried towards the nearest safe zone, Zara's mind raced. Something about this situation felt off. The chances of all containment fields failing simultaneously were astronomical. This had to be deliberate. They reached the safe zone, a large reinforced chamber designed to withstand almost any catastrophe. Inside, hundreds of aliens of all species huddled together, their fear palpable. Zara spotted Dean Zilix near the center, her bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with rapid worry patterns. "Dean Zilix," Zara called out, pushing her way through the crowd. "What's really going on?" The Dean's tendrils curled in surprise at Zara's directness. "Miss Chen, I'm afraid I don't know much more than you at this point. Our systems are in chaos, and we've lost contact with several sections of the university." Suddenly, a holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the room. A being Zara didn't recognize, vaguely humanoid, but with 4 arms and a head that seemed to phase in and out of reality, appeared before them. "Esteemed faculty and students of the Galactic University of Sciences," the being's voice boomed, somehow understood by all despite the diversity of species present. "I am Zorvax of the Purist Collective. For too long, we have watched as our noble institutions have been polluted by lesser species and dangerous ideas." Murmurs of confusion and anger rippled through the crowd. Zara felt alien eyes turning towards her, the most visible representative of a lesser species in their midst. Zorvax continued, "We have taken control of your containment systems. Even now, the chaos you've so recklessly studied spreads through your hallowed halls. Submit to our demands for stricter control over galactic education, or watch as your precious university tears itself apart." The projection vanished, leaving stunned silence in its wake. Dean Zilix's voice cut through the tension. "We will not negotiate with terrorists. Our priority now is to regain control of our systems and ensure the safety of all students and faculty." But as the dean spoke, Zora's mind was already racing. She thought back to her team's solution for the Silos IV crisis, how a small, targeted intervention had cascading effects throughout an entire ecosystem. Could a similar principle apply here? She pushed her way back to Zix and Krax. "I have an idea," she said, her voice low and urgent. "But I'll need your help." Her friends listened intently as Zora outlined her plan. It was risky, borderline insane, but it just might work. "You want us to go into the Chaos Lab?" Zix's crystalline form shimmered with disbelief. "That's suicide." "Not if we do it right," Zara insisted. "The purists won't expect anyone to go towards the danger. If we can reach the lab's central control unit, we might be able to create a feedback loop in the containment field network. It could reset the whole system." Krax's scales shifted to a determined orange. "It's crazy," he rumbled. "But it's better than waiting here to be destroyed or surrendering to those purist fanatics." With Zix reluctantly agreeing, the trio snuck out of the safe zone. The corridors were eerily empty, the usual bustle of university life replaced by distant sounds of destruction and the occasional roar of something that should not exist in this reality. As they made their way towards the Chaos Lab, they encountered pockets of warped space-time, gravity fluctuations that sent them floating or crashing to the ground, and glimpses of terrible, beautiful impossibilities that hurt the mind to look upon. Zara's determination never wavered. With each obstacle, she found herself drawing on everything she had learned, not just the advanced science taught at the university, but the uniquely human ability to adapt, to think creatively in the face of the unknown. They reached the Chaos Lab to find its massive doors twisted and warped, barely hanging on their hinges. Inside, reality itself seemed to be unraveling. Zara steeled herself and stepped forward, her alien friends close behind. "Remember," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "We're looking for the central control unit. It should be at the heart of the lab." As they navigated the treacherous landscape of the lab, Zara's plan began to take shape. Using Zixix's ability to refract energy, Krax's natural resistance to radiation, and her own understanding of the underlying principles, they began to manipulate the chaotic energies around them. It was grueling, dangerous work. More than once, they nearly lost each other in pockets of distorted space-time. But slowly, surely, they made progress. Finally, they'd reached the central control unit, a pulsing, multi-dimensional construct that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Zara took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to attempt could either save the university or tear it apart completely. "Here goes everything," she muttered, and began to input a complex series of commands. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like reality itself screaming, a wave of energy pulsed outward from the control unit. Zara, Zixix, and Krax were thrown backwards, their consciousness flickering on the edge of oblivion. When Zara came to, the first thing she noticed was the silence. The alarms had stopped. The sounds of destruction had ceased. Groggily, she sat up, relieved to see her friends stirring as well. "Did it work?" Zixix asked, their crystalline forms slowly reintegrating. Before Zara could answer, the lab's doors burst open. Dean Zilix floated in, followed by a team of security drones. Her bioluminescent tendrils pulsed with a mixture of relief and anger. "What were you thinking?" the dean demanded. "You could have been killed. You could have destroyed the entire university." Zara struggled to her feet, wincing at various aches and pains. "But we didn't," she said simply. "Did it work? Is the university safe?" Dean Zilix's anger seemed to deflate. "Yes," she said, her voice softening. "Somehow, your insane gambit worked. The containment fields have reset across the entire facility. The purists' control has been broken." As the reality of their success sank in, Zara felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. She had done it. She had saved the university, proving once and for all that humanity had something unique and valuable to offer the galactic community. But as she looked at the destruction around them, at the hints of realities better left unexplored, Zara knew that this was just the beginning. The purists' attack had revealed a deep-seated prejudice against lesser species that wouldn't disappear overnight. As Dean Zilix led them out of the Chaos Lab, towards a future suddenly much more uncertain and dangerous than before, Zara squared her shoulders. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them, not just for herself, but for all of humanity. The Galactic University of Sciences would never be the same, and neither would the galaxy's perception of humanity. A new understanding. In the days following the Purist attack, the Galactic University of Sciences hummed with a nervous energy. Repair drones buzzed through the corridors, mending the physical damage, while the student body and faculty grappled with the emotional and philosophical fallout of recent events. Zara found herself at the center of it all, her actions during the crisis having catapulted her from curiosity to celebrity almost overnight. As she made her way to an emergency assembly called by the university board, she could feel the weight of alien gazes upon her, some filled with newfound respect, others with lingering suspicion. The Great Hall was packed with beings from across the galaxy. Dean Zilix floated at the podium, her bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with a complex mix of emotions. As Zara took her seat between Zixix and Krax, the dean began to speak. "Esteemed colleagues, honored students," Zilix's melodious voice rang out. "We stand at a crossroads. The attack on our beloved institution has shaken us to our core, forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths about the prejudices that still exist in our galactic society." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Xylix continued, her tendrils swaying gently. But in our darkest hour, we were reminded of the very principles this university was founded upon: the pursuit of knowledge, the value of diverse perspectives, and the power of cooperation across species boundaries. Her gaze fell upon Zara, and the human girl felt herself sit up straighter. "Miss Zara Chen, please join me on the stage." On shaky legs, Zara made her way to the podium. Standing before the assembled beings of the galaxy, she felt incredibly small, yet somehow empowered. "Miss Chen," Xylix said, her voice warm, "your actions during the crisis exemplified the very best of what we strive for at this institution. Your creative thinking, your courage, and your willingness to risk everything to save beings so different from yourself. These are the qualities that will forge a brighter future for our galactic community." Zara felt a lump form in her throat as Xylix continued. "In light of your extraordinary contributions, the board has decided to establish a new department at the university, the Department of Convergent Sciences, dedicated to finding innovative solutions by combining perspectives from diverse species and disciplines. Miss Chen, we would be honored if you would serve as the student representative on the founding committee." The great hall erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds: cheers, whistles, and other, less identifiable noises of approval. Zara stood stunned for a moment before finding her voice. Thank you, Dean Xylix. I'm honored," she managed, her mind reeling with the implications. "But I can't take all the credit. None of this would have been possible without my friends and classmates from across the galaxy. Our strength lies in our diversity, in the unique perspectives each species brings to the table." As Zara spoke, she felt a surge of confidence. This was her chance to make a real difference, to pave the way for greater understanding between humans and alien species. "The purists tried to divide us," she continued, her voice growing stronger. "They saw our differences as a weakness, but we proved that our diversity is our greatest strength. By working together, by combining our unique abilities and ways of thinking, we can solve problems that no single species could tackle alone." The assembly listened in rapt attention as Zara outlined her vision for the new department, a place where the boundaries between disciplines would blur, where students and faculty from all species would collaborate on the galaxy's most pressing issues. As she concluded her impromptu speech, the great hall once again filled with sounds of approval. But it was the reaction of one particular individual that caught Zora's attention. Professor Xelmak, the once skeptical head of astrophysics, approached the stage. His exoskeleton had taken on a deep, respectful hue. "Miss Chen," he chittered, his compound eyes gleaming, "I owe you an apology. I had doubted the wisdom of admitting a human to our institution. I see now that my prejudice blinded me to the potential of your species. Your insights have opened up new avenues of research that I had never considered." Zara felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you, Professor," she said sincerely. "I'm looking forward to continuing to learn from you, and perhaps teaching you a thing or two as well." As the assembly dispersed, Zara found herself surrounded by a diverse group of aliens, her friends, classmates, and even a few professors. The air buzzed with excitement as they discussed the possibilities of the new department. Zix's crystalline form shimmered with enthusiasm. "Just think of the breakthroughs we could make by combining our species' unique sensory experiences." Krax nodded, his scales a warm, optimistic orange. "And with humans' adaptability and creative problem-solving, who knows what challenges we might overcome." As the group made their way to the dining hall, continuing their animated discussion, Zara felt a profound sense of belonging. She had come to the Galactic University of Sciences hoping to prove herself, to show that humanity had something to offer the galactic community. Now she realized she had done so much more. Later that evening, as Zara prepared to send her weekly message home, she paused, trying to find the words to convey the magnitude of what had transpired. How could she explain to her parents that their daughter had not only saved a university, but might have changed the course of human-alien relations? "Mom, Dad," she began, a smile playing on her lips, Remember how you always told me to reach for the stars? Well, I've done one better. I've brought the stars together." As she recounted the events of the past weeks, Zara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, and undoubtedly more encounters with those who feared change and diversity. But she was ready to face whatever the universe had in store. For Zara Chen was no longer just a human girl in an alien world. She was a bridge between species, a catalyst for change, and a symbol of the potential that lay in embracing diversity across the cosmos. As she drifted off to sleep that night, her dreams were filled with visions of a future where humans and aliens worked side by side, exploring the mysteries of the universe together. It was a future she was determined to help create, one breakthrough, one connection, one act of understanding at a time. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the galaxy, other humans were preparing to follow in Zora's footsteps. The door had been opened, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. The Galactic University of Sciences had been forever changed by the arrival of one human girl. Now, it was time for the galaxy itself to experience the full potential of humanity's unique perspective. The adventure, Zara realized with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, was only just beginning.